Good afternoon. Welcome into Beyond the Score. I'm joined today with my guests, Bobby Carter and Jimmy Grishewski. Guys, thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be back.
Guys, today we're going to be talking about the new college football playoff that'll be going on. A little scarce in sports news right now, so what better than talk college football? So in case you guys have not heard, the new college football playoff format is a +1 scenario. 2 semifinal matchups with the winners of both games with the chance to win the national championship in Texas at Jerry's World. So I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on the new college football playoff. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Or do you like the BCS? Bobby?
Well, Zach, I'm a BCS fan, and let me tell you why. The reason why I'm a BCS fan is because in the past it's had a lot of structure. You had your top 25 teams, and they've done everything that they could to get the collegiate athletes, right in the organized way. So that's one reason why I like it.
Jimmy?
Zach, I'm not a fan of either one. I'm a traditionalist. Growing up, I would wake up on New Year's Day. I would watch 9, 10 bowl games. Every college team, during the regular season, their goal was to play on a New Year's Day bowl game. Granted, we didn't have a decisive, who would be a national championship because we would have, a split between the AP and the college poll. So I do agree there has to be some change, but like I said, I'm more of a traditionalist still.
And then something else I also wanted to mention as well was, assuming these schools that do this +1 scenario, the fan bases are what's going to be hurting the most as far as their pocketbooks are concerned. Because if you have a team that goes to the Rose Bowl, wins that game, then they go to the national championship, how many of those fan bases are going to go to a Rose Bowl game in Pasadena and then go to Texas the next week? I mean, that's going to be really difficult for fan bases in choosing which game they're going to go to. Do you go to the semifinal matchup game, which could be your team's last, which most of them hope it doesn't, or do you go to wait for it and take a gamble and go to the national championship game assuming your team wins? What do you think about that?
Well, my thing is, I feel like that's not necessarily a big issue for most fans, but the only issue I see it as, being is, like you said, the pocketbooks, the people are going to lose out on their money, but if they're really true fans, they're going to be at both games.
You really think they would pay $2,000?
I've seen it done. Not everyone is going to go, but those true fans will be out in the stands. I'm not saying it's not going to be as much fans that normally are, but it's going to be enough. Granted, that they'll still be.
So would you so say if Nebraska went to the Rose Bowl, would you go to the Rose Bowl, and if Nebraska made the national championship, would you go to the national championship?
See, I'll be at home watching it on TV. So, that's just I'm one of those fans. But
yeah.
I'm saying, as in general, that a couple people.
And that's where Jimmy, I'll get right to you real quick.
Okay.
That's where I think there's going to be this fine line where these bowls and these TV contracts. A lot of people just want to stay at home. They get the better seat, and they get to eat their own food, and they don't have to spend money on going to another city, in back-to-back weeks. So that could be something that could really help or hurt the attendance numbers at those games.
Zach, a lot of people that go to these bowl games, these fans have money. They're the boosters. They're the corporate sponsors. They're the rich alumni base that's gonna go. Your casual fan is probably gonna go to the first bowl game. They'll go to the Rose Bowl because you don't know if your team's gonna make it to the national championship or not. The two teams that advance to the national championship, you want a fan like you and I we're not gonna be able to afford it, Bobby. Zach. Second of all, I agree with Bobby. Right now, the best seat in the house is to go to a sports bar or my TV and watch it with a bunch of friends because it's a lot cheaper. I get a better, camera angle and stuff like that, unless you're working with it. But yeah, a lot of the fans that travel do have money. All right, so they're gonna go. They're gonna go regardless.
Yeah. We agree to disagree. But some semifinal games. I wanted to talk about this. Maybe changing the format of how we do this playoff, maybe putting the semifinal games at school stadiums, which I think would be kind of cool, because you would have a trip to the national championship in your house. Like, let's look at a scenario from last year. Last year, number 1 Florida State would have taken on number 4 Alabama in Tallahassee, Florida. That would have been a cool matchup. I think we can all agree. And then the other matchup would have been number 2 Auburn taking on Michigan State in Auburn, Alabama. What do you guys think about like that type of scenario? Imagine this: Nebraska at Memorial Stadium under the lights for a trip to go to the national championship. I mean, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that would be really cool, Zach. The only thing is, like, just the discrepancies of people complaining about home field advantage. That's one of the main things. Okay, Nebraska wins the bowl game, the Rose Bowl game. Okay, someone's going to say, all right, they're home field advantage, So that's the problem that comes into play. So that's what you're going to see.
And I agree with Bobby in one sense too, because I think like I said, I'm a traditionalist. The Rose Bowl was always big time Pac-12. Now you're making that into a playoff game. I know it's like whenever the Rose Bowl doesn't hold the playoff game, they're going to go back to that tradition. I do agree where I think it could still be held at neutral sites, and that way I think it'd still keep the traditions of the bowl games for the other schools to make it to. Like I said, I'm a traditionalist. They're going to rotate them around, but like this year with the Rose Bowl holding, you're not going to have that Big Ten Pac-12. The granddaddy of all of them. I think it's going to take a little bit of a luster away. But with a traditionalist like me, that means I got to change my view on how I look at the college football season now, too.
And my question to you, Zach, is since let's say they're having it at, let's say, Memorial Stadium, who is getting all that money in regards to if it was at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, if a team played there? Would the Dallas Cowboys Stadium get that, or would the teams be able to get?
Going back to the semifinal matchup, like you were saying, who would share that money? I think that what you do is you'd have a different way that you would distribute the money, because both of those teams made that trip. So I think maybe you split the revenue down the middle for each team.
Okay.
Now, granted that it's going to be at the concessions and everything that goes along with concessions. I think that probably Nebraska should get the concessions. But as far as like TV money and the commercializing the whole product, I think that should be split down the middle.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Zach, because the home team will keep the concession keep the concessions, keep the parking. But when it comes to the advertising, the television, you split that right down the middle. I totally agree with you that way because the home stadium is hosting that. So
it'll definitely be interesting to see how this first playoff goes. The BCS is gone now, so this playoff committee and everything that goes along with it, this will be the first year that we all do this. So it'll be interesting to see. And our semifinal matchups this year will be the Rose Bowl and then the Sugar Bowl. And then, like we mentioned earlier, the national championship would be in Arlington, Texas at Jerry's World. So from everyone here at Beyond the Score, we are out of time for today, guys. Right. But we'll have more topics ahead. And from everyone here at Beyond the Score, thank you for tuning in and have a good night.